Good morning or good afternoon, St. Matthew Circuit. I'm going to make this video very short because I'm using my own internet and the video has to be short for it to upload because my internet, I'm not even going to mention it again, it's horrible, so I'm not going to overload it. So we're going to be talking about the parable of the salt, which you can find in Mark chapter 9 verse 50, Matthew chapter 5 verse 13, and Luke chapter 14 verse 34 and 35. I'm going to read Mark chapter 9 verse 50. Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can you make it salty again? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with each other. Salt has been used throughout history for preserving and flavoring food. It is one of the basic necessities of life. Its use is universal and its supply is seemingly inexhaustible. But beside beneficial qualities, salt has destructive powers as well. It can turn fertile soil into barren wasteland. The area around the Dead Sea is a case in point. In modern times, we find it unthinkable that salt can lose its saltiness. Sodium chloride, the chemical name for common table salt, is a stable compound. It is free of any impurities. In ancient Israel, however, salt was obtained by evaporating water from the Dead Sea. The water contains various substances other than salt. Evaporation produces salt crystals as well as chlorides of potassium and magnesium. Because salt crystals are the first to form in the evaporation process, they can be collected, thus providing relatively pure salt. If the evaporated salt is not separated, however, and if in time the salt crystals attract moisture, dissolve, and leach out, the residue loses its saltiness and becomes useless. What can you do with saltless salt? It is good for nothing. A farmer does not want these chemicals on his land because in their crude state, they harm plants. To throw the residue on a manure pile does not help either, for every so often the manure is gathered and spread over the land as fertilizer. The only thing that can be done with saltless salt is to throw it outside where people can trample it underfoot. If salt loses its basic property of being salty, it cannot be made salty again. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus addresses the crowds together with his disciples and says, "You are the salt of the earth." As salt has the characteristic of checking deterioration, so Christians should be a moral influence in the society in which they live. By their words and their deeds, they should arrest spiritual and moral corruption. And just as salt is invisible, for example, in bread, but nevertheless a potent agent, so Christians are not always seen, but individually and collectively they permeate society and constitute a restraining force in a perverse and depraved world. Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with each other, says Jesus in Mark 9:50. He exhorts his followers to use their spiritual resources to promote peace, first at home and then abroad. For if Christians are unable to live at peace among themselves, they have lost their effectiveness in the world. Many people may never read the Bible, yet they constantly watch those who do. In the early Christian church, the eloquent Creedosism once said that if Christians lived the life that is expected of them, unbelief would disappear. What a strong message, and what a message we need, especially for today, because even in the church we are separated because of political views, because of racial views, because of all the kinds of views that are up in the air right now, including the virus. So just remember this: don't lose your saltiness. Don't be saltless salt. Be at peace with each other. Agree to disagree and move forward, because that's not the focus on whether the statue should come down or stay up. The focus should not be on whether or not Paw Patrol should stay on TV. The focus should not be on things that don't bring us together. The focus should be on Jesus. And if the focus is on Jesus, then everything will be fine. If you're a Christian, be at peace with each other. If you're not, please consider Christ, because he is our only hope. I love you guys. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you Sunday.